Yeah, my name is Mark Rosenberg. I was born in Santa Monica, California, in 1950. Then I moved to Venice in 1967 to a house that's actually still there, and it's a great old Venice house at 257 Windward Avenue, right on the corner of Windward and Riviera. It was a 3-bedroom house, and there was 6 of us hippies living there, and it was a party house. I mean, we were buying lids every night, and it was fun times. And after that, I moved into the canals in about 2 years later, about 1970. But all that time, I mean, as a kid growing up, before I moved to Venice, I was riding the trams, to POP. It was a great place to grow up. So I was a beach kid. Loved to talk about my business. It was actually my brother's business, Jeff Rosenberg. I was living at 5th and Ocean Park around 75, 76. We weren't really close. We didn't hang around the same groups of people. He's a couple of years younger, and he was like a popular kid in school, whereas I was kind of an outsider. But anyhow, he came up over to the house one day, and he was telling me about he and a couple of his friends would go roller skating on Venice Beach. And Jeff actually roller skated and used them for transportation. He would skate to college at Santa Monica College, and he would skate around. And the reaction that he and his friends would get gave him the idea of renting roller skates at Venice Beach. They had adapted the urethane wheels, which were new at the time. It was a new evolution of the wheels that was actually made for skateboards, and it made roller skating just wonderful. One afternoon, he drops by the house and says, "I've got this. I'm going to want to start a business of renting roller skates." And I didn't know that he had been roller skating at the time, but he told me what was going on, and I wasn't like, "Oh yeah, that sounds great." I was very lackadaisical about the idea. I wasn't really excited about it. But he says, "I don't know what to name it." And he was telling me that he had this, high rollers or wing skates or, whatever. He had all these names that he was considering. He said nothing really clicked for him. I said, "Hey," I said, "how about Cheapskates?" And pretty much the rest is history. I get chills when I just talk about that. In the beginning of the rebirth of roller skating, which occurred in Venice in 1976, Jeff had bought a small truck and 25 pair of roller skates. And at the time, they were ball-bearing roller skates. And he backed the truck up. We had little contracts printed out, liabilities, and you give me your driver's license and you take the roller skates. So he put me on a pair of skates, and I was down there from day one, morning till close, trying to get people to roller skate. We first started, people didn't flock to line up and rent roller skates like they did in the short amount of time after we'd been established. So I was there on my skates, and people would gas on it. They go, "Oh, how cool!" And I go, "Well, I said, well, do you have you ever roller skated?" And they said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Well, I tell you, give it a try." I said, "Give me your driver's license. Take the skates for 15 minutes. If you don't like it, bring the skates back." And nobody ever brought the skates back. Everybody that I did that little promotional deal with went on and continued, and it kind of took off from there. I had printed up signs, no mileage charge, no speed limit, and I propped them up against the bench on the oceanfront walk. That was kind of the beginning. If I had just sat there, reading a book and said, "Hey, rent roller skates," it never would have gone anywhere. People would have just kept walking by. But I pushed it, I promoted it, and I was having fun. They could tell I was having fun. And on the weekends when Jeff and all his friends would come down, and our other brother, Kerry, you could see that everybody was just having a good time. Venice was a quaint beach community at the time. You know, it wasn't the tourist attraction that it is today. And we had gotten so much publicity, you know, after a short period of time, and like within a couple of months, we were able to rent a storefront. And after that, we had people lined up across the boardwalk we were open year round. It wasn't a seasonal visit to Venice anymore. It was a year-round recreation. We were like kings of the boardwalk back then. It was people that were there back then. Everybody that was there described the 70s as the best times in Venice. I guess the cultural difference between Venice and even other surrounding communities or communities just to the north or to the south is Venice was more liberal. It was bohemian style. Okay, we had the beatniks in the 50s, the hippies in the 60s, and most of that aspect had lingered, and that spirit, the spirit of Venice, continues to probably to this day. I love sharing the story about the history of how roller skating came about in Venice. I just love sharing that story, and I'm here because I want that story to get out, to become ingrained in a part of Venice history and roller skating history.